Hello YouTube, Jared back again with another video. I am still in the thick of things with my towel project. I'm happy to say that the first batch has been primed and is looking good. If you remember my earlier videos on how nasty and 3 or 4 layers of paint this guy used to be, this thing is back to having a working gun. It's painted up. The door works, so I am super excited. My models are back to being closer to like new, and so that's super exciting. This guy got his layers of paint off. He's on a fresh base with a fresh coat of paint and is no longer missing a foot and an arm panel. So we're doing good. We're making progress. We'll be painting here pretty soon. I've got a few more surprises and tricks up my sleeve, but in the meantime, I wanted to make a video on blue stuff, green stuff, Milliput, and the combination thereof. And so when you have missing pieces or broken pieces, there's things you can do to mitigate that. Obviously, the best option is usually to search your bits box or try to do a little kit bashing. But sometimes if you need to make a piece, it's nice to break out the Milliput, which is this stuff, the 2-part epoxy, or green stuff, which is another 2-part, or as previous crafters and YouTubers have found, you can mix them together into a 4-part epoxy that's part blue stuff, part green stuff, and then part Milliput, and then you combine it with the blue stuff. That is a mouthful. And that's what this is right here. This is 1 part of Milliput, which is a 2-parter, and 1 part green stuff, which is a 2-parter, and then that makes the hybrid material, and you put that in the blue stuff, which is the mold material. So 3 materials in one to make the perfect product. At least that's what we're hoping. I haven't popped it out. We'll do that live on camera here in just a second. So very quickly, pros and cons of each. Milliput, huge fan of it. It is very stiff once it hardens up. It's very clay-like. One trick, if you wet your fingers, you can rub wet fingers on it. That'll give it a smoother texture. You can take a piece of tin foil and dab that against it and give it a rocky texture. Very easy to texture, very easy to craft with. And my favorite for putting on bases so the base isn't flat. It gives it a little texture. Then you layer it up with your basing material and it looks a lot more natural. Big fan of Milliput. I'm buying this stuff regularly. I think it's technically supposed to be used for like plumbing and like home repairs, but it is such a good crafting ingredient. But yeah, it says on the side here it's used for all kinds of car repairs and radiator repairs and battery repairs and boat repairs, but I use it for mini bases mostly, and then sometimes for recreating stuff. Milliput is perfect for things that are bigger, heavier, chunkier, and that can be sanded down. And of course, it primes up and paints, no problem. Green stuff is a little bit different. It tends to stay rubbery even once it hardens. So this has the flexibility, this has the strength. And when you combine them, you get the best of both worlds. And so if you're trying to cast something small and fiddly, and I have an example over here. Let me see which one it is over here in my little stash. Yes. These are casting green stuff. These are the little rocket things. And so this gives it just a little bit of flexibility, and then you'll have to go in and trim the flash off. But if you just need a really small bit, green stuff can sometimes be the better choice. And then something like this. This is the little extra antenna for the stealth suits. I needed 1 more of those. But if you look closely, you always run the risk of a miscast where it's a little bit off kilter there. So I'm going to have to double check this one. This one might be a failed cast. Thankfully, this stuff is not expensive. And because it's a 2-part, you always use half as much as you think you do. And then I'll take my X-Acto and I'll cut this out and see if it came out. Let me just do a quick test on camera. Might be a failed cast, and I often get at least 1 or 2 failed casts. So you kind of expect it to go wrong sometimes. No, that's correct so far. Okay. Well, let's keep going then. Let's see what we got. See, the green stuff is somewhat flexible, but not as always as good as you think it's going to be. But it looks like it's very close to a good cast. You can almost tear it with your fingers, but it's probably better to use an X-Acto and take your time and not point a camera in your face while you're doing it. But you can cut this out, prime it up, and paint it. But it's going to have a lot more wiggle to it, and I don't know. I don't use just green stuff a whole lot just because it tends to be a little wiggly. I had a Nighthaunt lose a sword once, and I cast that in green stuff, and that worked really well. But I feel like I can keep working on this, and I might be able to make something useful. And then once it's primed, it'll look better. These look a little better, but there's a little bit of warping on them. But the nice thing with the blue stuff is once you've made the mold, you can keep casting over and over again. And I've gotten 4 or 5 casts out of one mold before I melted it down and reformed it. So what I use for these is I have a gas stove, and so you can't put these directly on gas because it'll burn it. You don't want burning plastic in your house. So I do a diffuse plate, then I do a bread tin on top of that, and then I pour boiling water in it, and then I put the burner on low to keep it warm, and then I drop these in, and then I use a chopstick to pull them out so I don't burn my hands on the hot water. And then you throw the piece you want to close, and I'll show you an example right here. You throw the piece in that you want, and if you look closely, you use the chopstick and poke some holes so that they don't stick together. And then once the first half is cooled, you put the second half over it, and you try to leave some weird, irregular gaps so it's very easy to fit it back together so you don't get the miscast. And then I recommend make these little flaps on one end so it's easy to peel it apart. Otherwise, you'll have a failure. But I just cast this bit, but then I found a way to buy this bit a little bit cheaper. So this bit I'm probably going to try to buy, but I might try to cast one too. But this is too delicate to really cast in the green stuff and really too delicate to cast in the Milliput, but it might work in the hybrid material. So saving that mold for later. This bit is pretty floppy to begin with. So this is the little transponder thing for the stealth suits, and I only had 1 of them. So I really want 2 more of this one. But I figured the green stuff might be the right material. And you get this by trial and error. There's no real fast or loose rule. I find if it's got dangly bits, green stuff's a little better. If it needs to have some strength and needs to be sanded down, Milliput might be better. Otherwise, usually the best material is the hybrid material, and you can kind of sit here and cut it out. Obviously, I'd much rather kit bash 99 out of 100 times. Kit bashing is so much more fun than trying to recast. I can't imagine trying to recast entire models. The biggest thing I've recast, though, I will say, is I recast the body for my Sylvaneth for the Tree Lords because I had the extra weapon and head bits. And because the bodies are just tree, it really didn't look bad, and it just looks like bark. And so that actually worked out really well. But otherwise, can't say I normally recommend. It's better to buy the real kits wherever you can. But this, I feel like if I sit here and trim at this and take my time and go slow, I can make it a good approximation, because this is a really tiny part. I don't see the original. It's on one of my desks here. But the one that I need the most of these are just little tests just to see if I can make it work. What's in here? I already forgot what I put in here half the time. This is a melt-a-gun, I think. Yep, there's another gun that I'm casting in case I need it. But like I said, I found a lot that I just bought. Hopefully we'll get here in a few days. It'll have some extra bits, so I won't need to do this. And then I can have the crisper GW plastic instead of this chunky stuff. So fingers crossed I won't need these molds other than maybe casting 1 or 2 more of these for my stealth suit, since I had 1 and I need 3. If I make 1 more, I'll be done. This is what I really need, is the turrets, because I do not have enough turrets. So what we're going to do is pop this boy out carefully. And there we go. There's the turret base. And here's the original, and here's the recast. That's got some streaking in it where you can see the material change. But otherwise, it looks pretty good. There's a little dip right here that doesn't look great, but might be able to get away with calling it battle damage. But you can see this is a little bit thicker, a little bit chunkier. And because it's got the Milliput in it, it's actually sands down a little bit easier, or you can trim it with a blade. But it's sitting pretty decent right now. But I figured since this is a chunkier piece and it's almost glorified terrain, it might be easier to just recast this. If anything can be recasted, it's something heavier, blockier, like a turret base. And so this I feel like I can hit it with the X-Acto knife, give it some sands, and this will actually look pretty decent once I put it on a 40 mil base and then pop something on top. So this, I'm going to say, looks very usable, once it's cleaned up. Came out all right. There's a weird lump right here that I don't... No. That's a tau symbol. That's supposed to be there. This isn't, but that is. And so what I'll do, before I forget, is very carefully look around for wherever the imperfections are. Smooth them off. Sand it down. I can't tell if that's supposed to be there or not. This doesn't look like it's supposed to be there, though. Yeah. Boom. 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 And see, this is where having the original could be really nice. Yeah, it looks like there was supposed to be this little dot thing here, but it miscast. Well, no one would ever notice that, I don't think. It's not, if I don't notice it, my friends won't notice it either. Though now it's on the video. Okay, it looks like it's slightly uneven on this side, so. But like you can see how easy this just carves away. It's really easy to carve. It's really easy to give a good sand, and then I use these nail files that are, $2 for 20 or whatever, cheap as all else. And so that looks pretty good. It just needs a little more cleanup off camera. Here's the last one. So to make this shape, you might be able to guess from the bottom, I have a Lego mold. And so for bigger casts, Lego mold is nice, but if it's too thick, it's hard to bend and get stuff out. So you got to be careful with that. So you let it cool, and then you put the second layer on, you poke some holes so that they don't stick together. I messed that up the first time. Now let's see if we got what we wanted out of it. Oh, there's a ton of flash on these boys. And, ooh, here we go. And you might be able to already guess what this is going to be. It is going to be a lot of flash. Oh boy, I do not like that gapping right there. But I can see the bones of something cool underneath all this mess. Yeah, this one might have miscast, let's be real here. But maybe it didn't, and maybe I can just clean it up with my knife. Not cutting myself on camera. Snapping off some of the garbage here. There we go. Alright. See, this is the important part, because this part's got a little more detail on it. But if I sit here and give it a working over with the tool, I might be able to get something half useful out of it. Let's see. Okay. So we're making some progress, but it looks like it didn't fully cast right there. But we put this right here, and what I'll do is I'm going to take my drill, and I'll drill. Oh, this drill bit's too big, but I'll drill right here with a much smaller drill bit, and then put it like a piece of toothpick or something in there. Then this can balance on top, so it looks official and it doesn't fall apart. And it should give me a decent turret, assuming I can clean this back piece up. Because this back piece, ooh, that's a miscast. See right there? That's a miscast. That's what you're trying not to do. So this first test was a fail. Hopefully it's not just the mold, because this was sitting pretty flush. Yeah, there's a good chance this thing shifted and I have to remelt. What I might do is take the original pieces, put them in here, and then lay this on top and recast this, just the top piece, because this is starting to make me think that it did not cast well. Because that looks a little smooshed right there in the mold bit. That's unfortunate. Yeah. Yeah, it may be uncast, or maybe it was just off slightly. I'm going to do one more test on that. But yeah, this is ruined. It's not useful. Again, where you don't have to do this, don't do this. But where you take your time and do it, sometimes it can give you that one extra piece that you need. Or, God forbid you do what I did and lose one of the swords and you don't have an extra sword that matches the art scheme. I was able to very, very carefully recreate a Nighthaunt sword for one of my guys. Okay, see, this one didn't come out so bad. Let's see. There we go. Ooh, yep, see that? And that's miscast as well, too. This is way over to the side. So, this mold, either I slipped when I pushed the lid on, and it did like that, or it's just a bad mold. Well, that's a live demonstration of the pitfalls of using the blue stuff method. So sometimes you get some good stuff out, sometimes you get some bad stuff out. Don't go all in on this thinking you're gonna buy one Space Marine and recreate an army. You'll make yourself miserable. But The nice thing is these can go in. This one actually came out really well, so keep that bit. But these can go into my junk pile. You know, if I'm making a big rock, I might put this under the rock and then build up some Milliput on top. And then I can use this just to get some extra volume, and then I'm not wasting stuff. So these won't get wasted, but these are definitely not very useful, that's for sure. So that's green stuff, hybrid green stuff, Milliput, kind of pros and cons of using it. And as you can see, it's got some really useful use cases, but it's also finicky as all else and kind of a pain in the neck. So it's a love-hate relationship for sure. But this mold right here came out good, so I can definitely use this one again. The other thing, too, is if you're molding a piece that has multiple pieces like this one, this piece never fully sat right. It was wrong when I got it, and I still kept fighting. You can see it's a little off in here. It's not bad. It's just annoying. You got to be careful, because sometimes you can lose pieces inside or break pieces. I've definitely broken pieces while trying to recast like that. So recasting is a very mixed bag in terms of pros and cons. But we'll see. We'll see. Let's see. And after you've used the mold a couple times, it starts to get a little junky, and it's not as nice as it used to be. Okay. Might be able to use this one. This one looks... Yeah, this just looks warped. I don't think I'm going to use this mold. This was just a test anyways. I don't think I'm going to need it anyways. I think I have enough rocket launchers, but... in theory, if I push these two together like this, I could make the bigger rockets that go on the ship on the bottom of the ship. But oof. Yeah, this one's useless. All right, so one fail. This one's a save. These two are fails. Haven't even tried these two yet. That was just to take them out of the mold and show you what the mold looks like. And then this one is kind of meh. Kind of meh. Might be useful. Might be useful. If I really, really need it. You know, because I don't have anything I can kit bash into this is the other piece of that equation. So, good backup option to have, and I'm glad I have it. I got my money's worth when I did the Sylvaneth, and I was able to make extra bark bodies for my extra pieces. So I'm happy on that front, but I'm always trying to see if I can push my skill. There's a couple people out there on YouTube who are much better at this because they've done it a lot more, and you can tell that they've got the skills. But this came out looking really good. All right, well, thanks for sticking with me. Hopefully I'll have some more videos soon on the project. I'm about to start painting. I'm finalizing the paint scheme, and I will see you all in the next video. Thank you so much.